Welcome to the Investor Coaching Show, a podcast to help you get an insider's view of the financial world and escape common investment traps. We look at the financial news of the day and help you make sense of it so you can relax about money. And here's your host, Paul Winkler.
All right, we are back here on the Investor Coaching Show. Paul Winkler, Ira Work, Evan Barnard. Okay, Ira, what are the signs that you're fiscally fit after 40? Sign, everywhere.
Well,
sign.
there could be 11 of them. The first sign is that, and I don't know that I agree with this one. You have three times your annual income saved for retirement. So I think that's going to depend upon how much income does the person make.
Okay, so you have 3 times your annual income saved. So if you make $40,000, if you have $120,000 in savings, you're fiscally fit, is what they're saying.
Yes.
After age 40.
And that would be like a yardstick. It's not something that's set in stone. But I remember a movie back years and years and years ago where they said if you're not making your age if you're not earning your age by 50, you're a failure. So yeah, it wasn't a movie probably from the 70s. Sign number two is your emergency fund is robust. Now, every financial plan is going to recommend you have a minimum of 3 up to 6 months. I think 6 months is the perfect number that people should aim for, but they definitely should have no less than 3 months of an emergency reserve.
Okay, so I just ran a number really quick while you were just talking about that. I went back to the original thing that you said, because just for the fun of it, just to see how the numbers worked out. And what I did is I took somebody making $40,000, and you said 3 times.
3 times, 120.
So they had $120,000. Then what I did is I took the number of years that they'd have till retirement, quote unquote. Mm-hmm. All right. And it was 27 years in my example.
Because you used age 67, full
I used
retirement
age 67, full retirement, the Social Security retirement age. And then I used an after inflation rate of return, 7%.
Okay.
So that we could think of the number that was actually generated in today's dollars.
1.3.
You're not too far off, man. Not too far off. It was because what I added to it though, is I added that you were saving 10% of your income.
Oh.
Okay. So I added that you're saving $4,000 a year.
All right.
Wow.
All right. How much do you come out with? $1,064,000.
Okay.
Okay. You take 4% of that. It's
40,000.
So your income technically would be higher than it is right now if you were at that level. So your income would be, if you use a 4%, that 4%, 40,000 per year on $1 million. I'm using your income would be 40,000 on $1 million. It's a little bit over 40,000 because it's $1,064,000. Then Social Security on top of that, Social Security benefit would be somewhere in the neighborhood of, let's see, so you got about $12,000, replace 90%, about $9,000. Next $30,000, another $9,000, about 18, so about $1,600 maybe, somewhere in that neighborhood would be your Social Security benefit, $1,600 per month.
So $19,000.
Yeah, about $19,000 plus the $40,000 that you're pulling out of your income, you'd be at about $60,000 of income. You'd actually be sitting fairly pretty.
Cool.
That's interesting. That's kind of it. I'd have to play around with the rule of thumb in other income circumstances. Maybe I'll do that while you're giving I'll try another one. I'll try 60,000 of income, see how that comes out. But go ahead.
It'll probably come out very similar.
I don't know because you got Social Security is going to be a lot less because Social Security is sort of means tested. In a way, because your benefit from Social Security goes down.
You're covering less of your income.
Yes.
Yeah, if you're making $40,000, you've got a bunch of your income that's replaced at 90%, and then some of your income is placed at 32%. Is the way Social Security works.
Right.
Is your income it replaces less of your income as a percentage as your income goes up. But I'll do that. What was the next rule? And I'm going to play around with
All
that
right,
number.
so the second rule, as I mentioned, was your emergency fund is robust, and we would say a minimum of 3 to 6 months of living expenses.
Can I jump in there a second?
Sure.
Because that's kind of the textbook number, and we've all used that for years. I will freely concede that since COVID and things like shutting down businesses for 6 months and people losing jobs left and right, I've become much more comfortable telling someone to have 12 months of cash sitting there for spending. I mean, just
I do that a lot.
That's
as
a bias that I have come through just in the last 3 years.
I do that as well.
As well.
Yeah, I do that as well.
Hey,
for people,
you just don't know.
Yeah,
Well-
and a lot of people, it's daunting. That's a daunting number. That's a really high number.
Well,
Like,
it
how
is.
am I ever going to get there? But, it's just...
Well-
Because sometimes people feel like they've got too much in cash. And I say, well, it's not terrible to have a year's worth of spending.
No, I'm in total agreement with that. I tell all my retirees I want them to have 1 year, 12 months,
Yeah.
just sitting there on the sidelines.
And I'm optional for that for younger people. So I agree with you there. Yeah.
So, but I don't think anybody should have less than 3 months.
Oh, totally.
Okay, by the way, guys, to back up real quick, I tried the 80,000. 80,000 times 3 is 240,000, right?
yep.
Okay. And then I'm saving 8,000 per year in this particular instance. You know what the number comes out to?
2 million.
just over. Just over. Not a bad rule of thumb.
Math is a beautiful thing.
It is a beautiful thing. It's not a bad rule of thumb. Having 3 times your income at age 40 and saving it, but you got to add to that, you're saving 10% of your income on top of that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting.
Well, and that's the reason why when I'm meeting with people for the first time and I tell them, we have these workshops that we go through and that what I teach and the way that I teach is I teach in concept. Because if you understand the concept, then each individual's numbers, once we get to that point, will just naturally fall into place. But if you understand the concept, numbers are numbers. It's like you just can't mess around with numbers.
Yeah.
Step number 3, the third sign, is that you're either out of debt or you have a set plan to get out of debt. That would show that you're financially fit.
I think a set plan to get out of debt makes a ton of sense because you want to be thinking about that point in time when you stop working, and it would be great if your budget dropped right at that particular point in time, just as you stop working.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times getting that mortgage paid off at that particular date is it's a big deal for me. Yeah, but getting, how to get out of debt, paying cash for cars, that type. And that's come to think of it, guys, that's something that we don't talk about quite enough. And we did talk about as we were having a meeting up here in the Goodlettsville office and going, what should we be talking about on the radio over the coming year? And I made the comment, I said, we hardly ever talk about debt.
Yeah.
And I think we ought to probably talk a little bit more about it because it's a real thing, for so many people. And we just always felt that, there were voices out there talking about it, but you don't hear a lot of those voices as much anymore.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably a decent idea. And then, coming at it from a more of an academic standpoint, it's not a bad idea. So
yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah. Hey, let's take a quick break. We'll finish this right after. We'll finish this topic right after this break. You're listening to the Investor Coaching Show. Paul Winkler, Ira Work, Evan Barnard. We're going to take a quick break and be right back after this on Super Talk 99.7 WTN. Thanks for tuning in to the Investor Coaching Podcast. Now, you may be one of these people that's been listening and realizing, wow, investing, there's a lot more to it than meets the eye, and financial planning, tax laws constantly changing, and recognizing that maybe you might need some help in this area, but you don't want just anybody to help you out. So we have 10 offices in the Middle Tennessee area, and everything that we do is fee only. We align our interests with your interests. So you can get an initial 15-minute phone call with any one of our offices just by going to paulwinkler.com/call. That's it. Every one of the offices is run by somebody with 20 plus years experience. They're all degreed planners. They all have academic backgrounds in investing, and you can get the help that you need. So if you want to set up a complimentary phone consultation, just go to paulwinkler.com/call. And we look forward to seeing you soon. All right. We're back here on the Investor Coaching Show. Paul Winkler, Evan Barnard. Our work. paulwinkler.com is the website. Money and investing. So Ira's been talking about the signs that you're fiscally fit after the age of 40. So continuing on that, what's next?
All right.
We talked a little bit about amount of savings, number one, and then emergency fund, and then
we talked about the emergency fund. The next one is you have an estate plan and a will. Now, a lot of people that come into the office, I find, do not even have a will, much less an estate plan.
Yeah.
And the danger of that...
It's because nobody wants to think about that. I don't want to think about my demise. Ugh.
Well, I've battled cancer twice, so it's kind of a little on the forefront of my thoughts. Well, when you recognize you do have a will, just let me say this really quickly, but it's not written by you. You do have one always. Correct.
Yeah.
You have an estate plan.
Well, yeah, I know. But I'm kiddingly using the term will because the state decides, where your stuff goes.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you might not actually know what that is, and that might not be what you want to happen.
Probably not what you want to happen.
So, for instance, in the state of Tennessee, if you have one child, let's say you're married with one child, your spouse will only get 50% of your assets if there is no plan in place. Now, you may not want that. Then it gets worse if you have two or more kids, because then your wife, your spouse will only get 1/3. So perhaps you're thinking, if you don't have a will out there or any kind of estate plan, perhaps you're thinking that my spouse will just get everything I own. I don't need to have any of that stuff. Well, you do.
Or that accounts are actually the beneficiary of the accounts. They're going to get all of that, and you may want some of the, that money to go to other people in the family, kids or whatever. Yeah.
The fifth thing would be having life insurance. Now, a lot of people, I think, are selling life insurance the wrong way. A lot of people are buying the wrong type of life insurance.
As an investment, yeah.
Yep, they're buying it as an investment, and the studies do teach us that the actual accumulation of wealth inside the life insurance does not work out the way all those illustrations report.
We know this from experience, yeah.
So, and if the life insurance did work out the way that the illustrations reported, you wouldn't see all these commercials talking about I had to sell my life insurance because I couldn't afford the premium.
Isn't that the truth? That's probably a topic that we ought to get into a little bit at some point. Listening to, because we've talked about it before, but it is a messy thing and still being sold as an investment. Hey, this is Paul Winkler. Hope you enjoyed today's edition of the Investor Coaching Show. You want to learn more about what we do, go to our website, paulwinkler.com. You can watch some of the videos there, and if you're not already a client, you can set up a free initial consultation. Until next time, I'm Paul Winkler, reminding you that I believe that more educated investors are more confident investors, and confident investors are more successful investors. Have a great one. Advisory services offered through Paul Winkler, Inc., an SEC-registered investment advisor. The opinions voiced and information provided in this material are for general informational purposes only and not intended to provide specific advice or recommendations for any individual. To determine what investments are appropriate for you, please consult with a financial advisor. Paul Winkler, Inc. does not provide tax or legal advice. Please consult your tax or legal advisor regarding your particular situation.